Sometimes you're going to be given functions of quadratics in a different form, not the standard form, but a different form, in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, the form that we traditionally looked at when we solved for quadratics. So our whole process remains the same, except for one aspect of that, and it's how we find the vertex. So again, we want to determine if the graph opens up or down, and we can determine that by the leading coefficient of the x squared, which is our a. So in our example right here, our leading coefficient is a -1. So we know that this graph opens downward. The second part is our vertex. And our vertex is going to be determined by the point -b over 2a, and that point evaluated Now, I don't have enough room on this board or a time to bring you through that process of how do we know that that's the vertex based on this particular form. So I highly encourage you to follow through and look at that in your book to get an idea of, oh, that's how they did it. And think about it, all of you guys have enough skills and experience right now to understand it. I know books can be intimidating, but you guys have the skills and the experience to follow that process along and go, oh, you know, I do understand how they did that. And once you get to the point that you understand how those things happen, it's no longer magic. It's you guys' learning, and that's kind of cool. So let's just look in this particular problem how that plays itself out. So identify our values of A. A is -1. Sorry about that, guys. B would be, in this case, a -2, and C in this case would be a positive 1. And so my vertex is at -b over 2a. Minus b is a minus a -2 all over a 2 times a -1. That equals 2 all over a -2 equals a -1. Did I get my negatives wrong? Something doesn't feel right. All right, it's right. I just had to check to make sure I wrote the problem down right. You guys know how you write the problem down and you solve it, and then only you come back to find out, wait a minute, I solved the wrong problem because I wrote the problem down wrong. Me too. All right, so the first value of my vertex is a -1. So now what does this f of minus b over 2a means? Well, that means I look at the function and I evaluate it at -1. Because this basically is my x value. I want to know what's the y value that pairs with that x value. That's the vertex. So I have -1 squared minus 2 times -1 plus a 1. Minus 1 squared is -1 plus 2 plus 1. That looks like it equals a 2. And so my vertex of this particular parabola is at the point -1 and 2. And I know that the graph opens downward. So a little bit right now I know. Let's look at the point over -1 and up 2. It goes downwards. So I can expect that I am going to have some x-axis or x-intercepts, and I'm going to have a y-intercept as well. Well, the process continues on just as it has before. Solve the x-intercepts. That's where we take the function, set it equal to 0. We may need to use a quadratic formula in this, or some other components to help us determine where it crosses the x-axis at. The y-intercept, that's where we evaluate the function at 0 and find out where it crosses the y-axis. Then we plot some points. So the process is the same. The only difference is how do we determine what its vertex is. So when it's in a different form, in the form that we're a little bit more familiar with, the vertex is at the point -b over 2a, comma, f, or the function evaluated at that particular point.